What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Jets Fishing Adventures. We are out here at the house, and you know what today is? Today is June 1st. Can y'all believe that? May has flown by so quick, and this year has flown by so quick, really. We're already almost halfway through the year, and it's just crazy. But anyway, in today's video, we're going to talk about my top 5 baits for the month of June. Y'all love these videos, so let's jump right on in. So before we jump into my top 5 baits, I want to talk about a little thing of what you will see this time of year. So in June, you have a lot of stuff happening this time of year. The water temp's getting a lot hotter. Here in the southeastern region, particularly in Tennessee, we have anywhere between 75 to mid to low 80s, depending on kind of the clarity of the water, a lot of different factors. Most of the time, water temp is affected by nighttime temperatures. So once that nighttime temperature staying at 60 to 70, that's about how much your water temp will stay. I know I just got done talking to the guy that won the giveaway, Mr. Fishing Ohio. He has his own YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description below. But I got done talking to him, and he was talking about their water temp is in the low 60s to mid 60s. And he's up in Ohio, about as north as you can get in Ohio. So if you're watching this video, I know I have a few people that's coming from up in Michigan, Ohio. If you're watching, just keep in mind that the baits that I'm talking about in this video will be about a month or two ahead of what you're doing. So if you're watching, go back to like April and May and watch those videos. But in June, we have a little bit of the shad spawn still going on in the early mornings. We have the bluegill spawn starting up about mid-June. They're probably even spawning now, depending on where you're at. And then towards the end, or towards all of June, we'll start having mayfly hatches. You might ask, why is it called mayflies? I'm not sure, because a lot of times they hatch in June, but we'll have that. So my first bait, as you probably already know, has a lot to do with bluegill hatching. So we'll just jump right into my top 5 baits right now. So let's get into my top 5 baits for the month of June. If you know me, and I actually just gave away one of these in the 1,000 subscriber celebration, but my number 1 bait for the month of June is a popper. You know, bluegill start spawning this time of year. You got that mayfly hatch or the June bug hatch, whatever you want to call them. They're about the same, really. You'll get a lot of these insects setting on top of the water, and you can go through there with a popper. The reason why a bluegill popper works so good is because the bluegill are going to be eating those bugs on top of the water, and they're going to be spawning this time of year. And these big largemouth love to swim, just hunt up shallow, look for these bluegill. And a popper looks like a dying bluegill. There's really no better bait to mimic a dying bluegill than a popper that's sitting on top of the water. If you look, this is the Mega Bass Pop Max, I think is the name. I'll link everything in the description below, but as you can tell, it's kind of beaten up. It's actually a little bit rusty because I didn't take good care. This is kind of an old bait. This is the bait that I've won $10,000 on, so there you go. I actually gave away the copy of this bait in the giveaway a couple of weeks ago, and Mr. Fishing Ohio won that, which I've already mentioned. So if you're watching this, Mitchell, you better be using it, and probably for you next month. One of my favorite rod that I throw a popper on is this Cashin 7'3" medium heavy. One of my all-time favorite rods ever. I've won a lot of money on this rod. It's got the action. It's a real nice soft tip, as you can see, but after about 20% is just straight backbone. Real nice rod for poppers, anything with treble hook baits. That's my rod. I throw it with it's paired with a Lew's speed spool, a BB1. This is one of my all-time favorite reels. Sadly, they don't make it anymore. As you can see, it is just butter smooth. To be honest, I have never cleaned this reel, and I've had it for like 3-4 years, and you can still see it's just smooth as butter. If anybody knows where I can find some of these, let me know, because I love them, and they're probably my favorite reel. One reason why it's my favorite reel, I've talked about in videos past, it's got a clicker drag. What other reel has a clicker drag? I just don't know. But let's jump in to my bait number 2. All right, so my number 2 bait is one of the most fun baits you can fish, and you can catch them giants. You know, if you watch any of my previous videos, definitely last year video, you know I love fishing grass, shallow water grass. And this time of year, the grass is just kind of starting to get above water. You still have a lot of submerged grass as well. But one of my favorite ways to catch them this time of year, and it's a good way to cover a lot of water, is a buzz toad. This is actually the Strike King Super Toad, I think. Yep, right here, there's the packaging. That is in the green pumpkin pearl, one of my favorite all-time frogs colors. It's kind of mimics a frog, but it also kind of can mimic a bluegill and a shad. It's got a little bit of that pearl in it. One of my all-time favorite lures to throw this time of year. The reason why, you can cover a ton of water. This time of year, the fish can kind of group up in a lot of places, and if you're not covering water, you can miss a lot of fish because you haven't got to them. So I like throwing this. You can throw it out. All you do is throw it out, just retrieve it. It's top water. It'll sit there and glug, 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 glug. And was it one of my all-time favorites for this time of year? Definitely when that grass is kind of sparculated, not really thick grass. This is when I really use them. I got it paired with my ALX Toad Face. This is a 7'2" medium heavy plus. You might ask, what's a medium heavy plus? Well, it's a medium heavy that has a little bit extra backbone. That's one thing I like about this rod. This rod is actually my frogging rod, like toads, and my jig rod. Really good rod. But I got it paired up with a 300 Corrado power horse of a reel. One of the best reels ever made. Good for the money as well. I got it paired with 30-pound Seaguar Smackdown. Some people say that's a little too light, but I don't know anything that's bigger. I don't think I'm going to catch a fish that's bigger than 30 pounds. So that's good enough for me. All right, moving on to number 3. If you already can tell what rod this is, you probably already know. But anytime you're using topwater baits, you should always have on a weightless Sinko, just like this little wacky rig, just in case you miss one on a topwater. This is one of the biggest tips for fishing grass. You don't really want to rig it a wacky rig, but a Texas rig Sinko around grass is killer. But the reason why I always have one of these rigged on, and you can even see in a lot of my videos, I'll have it sitting right here with the line already out, ready to pick it up and throw in. But if you get a topwater blow up and you miss that fish, pick this up as soon as you reel that bait right in, pick this up, throw in there, and a lot of times you'll catch him because he's actively feeding. And if you throw right in there where he's at, he'll turn around and grab that bait. So if you're fishing topwater, always have a weightless Sinko tied on, and you can catch a lot of fish that you miss. And sometimes these fish are giant, so you really want to catch them, definitely if you're in a tournament. But my Sinko rig, my wacky rig setup, is a 6'6", 6'8". So I don't know how you say it. Celis. If you know how to say it. This is Shimano. I got it paired up with a 6-gill Dreadnought reel with 15-pound Smackdown braid, and I usually run anywhere between 10 to 12 pound Invisex, depending on how big of a fish. Like if I'm fishing real big, if I know there's big fish in the area, I'll upgrade the line size. And it really depends on if I'm wanting to have it sink a little bit slower or faster. One of my favorite wacky rig worms, and really any kind of Sinko, is the Berkeley Pirate Scent General. Really good worm. This actually falls a little quicker than a Gary Yamamoto, and that's the reason why I like it. This is actually infused with scent too, and if you're fishing with it, you can definitely smell it. It smells disgusting, but fish love it. This is actually the owner. Um, it's the owner titanium weedless wacky rig hook. One of my favorite all-time hooks. If you've watched any of my other previous videos, you've watched me catch a 20.5 at Lake Fork on this setup, and I had to pull him over a bunch of like not toolies, but a bunch of cattails and all that, and he never came unpinned. A fish that size, probably anywhere between like a 5-pounder, and this rod handled it so well. And this is my number 3. All right, number 4. And you know, this time of year you can catch them about anywhere you want. So if you're up shallow, if you've been fishing up shallow, haven't had any luck, go out to like the secondary points, these little deeper points. And one of my favorite ways to cover a lot of water and fish a little bit deeper is a deep diving crankbait. This is actually the DT10, Rapala DT10, one of my favorite all-time crankbaits. In this category, you can go anywhere like a DT10. One of the biggest things I've always said, if you're fishing a point that goes out to like 20 feet, you want like a 25-foot diver, because these crankbaits are rated like a DT10. It is rated to dive 10 foot in the perfect condition. That's with like 10-pound line. That's with a very long cast. So in a kayak, particularly in a kayak, we're not making the perfect cast. We're so low to the water, getting that real long cast, it's kind of hard. So you want to go with a little bit deeper diver if you're trying to fish like a hump or the point that's a little bit deeper. So you always want to upsize your crankbait per where you're fishing. This setup right here, I'm using a Cashin 7'6" medium heavy moderate action. Love this rod right here. I got it paired up with a Daiwa Tatula. I'm not sure exactly, or it's a TWS. 6-to-3 gear ratio. You want that kind of a slower gear ratio, so you're not just blowing it past the fish. I got it paired up with 12-pound Seaguar Tatsu, one of my favorite lines. It is a little expensive, but it's well worth the money. But this is my DT10 through like DT16 series, and I will, if I get below or get past a 20-foot diver, I'll switch to this rod, which is a 7-foot. It's a 7'11" medium heavy moderate action. This is my deep diving rod. As you can tell, it doesn't have a reel on it because I don't use it very often. And if I do, I'll actually switch this reel over to that. But I only use this rod maybe like 2 to 3 times a year, so it's not very. I don't use it a lot, and because I usually just fish a DT10 or a 16 pretty much, because I don't like fishing I don't like fishing deep. And last but not least, my number 5 for the month of June, and that's got to be a jig. One of my favorite all-time baits to fish, really any time of the year, is a jig. But this time of year, you know, they're getting on these secondary points, these humps, these lay downs in the middle. If you find any standing or any timber, you can flip in that. A jig is one of my all-time favorite, probably one of the most versatile baits on the market, because you can flip it, you can swim it, you can drag it, just so many different ways. And this is actually the Bad Boy jig. I think it's called the sprayed grass color. I'm not 100% sure, but Bad Boy Jig has been a long-time sponsor of mine, and I just love their jig. You know, it's one of the best jigs around grass, around timber, because of the head style. It just slides right over it. One of my all-time favorite jig trailers is the Torn Outdoors Timber Crawl. There's no surprises there. I've talked about a jig a lot on my videos, and that's my favorite setup. I have changed a little bit on my rod. This is a 7'3" medium heavy fast action Cashin rod. Mainly because I'm using this time of year, I'm using my other jig rod as a towed rod, and that's pretty much the reason why I'm using this. I got it paired up with a BB1 speed spool. This reel right here, it's supposed to be the same as the other reel that I absolutely love, but it just doesn't feel the same. But anyway, jig is one of my all-time favorites. You can catch some giant fish all year long. You don't, a jig, you know, a lot of people always say it's a big fish bait. You do have a higher percentage of catching a nice fish, but you can catch fish from the smallest fish you've ever seen to the biggest fish. So it's a really an all-around big fish. It's really an all-around limit maker. All right, well, that is my top 5 baits for the month of June. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much on these videos, but comment below what is one of your favorite baits to fish this time of year. Um, I've done really good in the month of June. June is probably my favorite time to fish because you can go and fish any way you want and you can catch them. Depending on what part of the country you're in, you can catch them about anywhere you want. Some places you're fishing beds still. Up there in the north, I know a lot of y'all are watching. You're probably in the pre-spawn and spawning action. Here down in the Tennessee area, June can be very fun. There's a lot of stuff happening. Sadly, a lot of the pleasure boaters are getting back out on the water. So if you're out on the water, make sure you have your 360 flag. Always wear your life jacket. Just make sure you're safe while out on the water. If you see a boat coming, don't try to race it. Just watch them, keep an eye on him, make sure he's not going to hit you, and just make sure he can see you. So just be safe out on the water, and thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we will see y'all next week.